clarify inward. The topic of this particular Dharma talk is meant to help you, encourage you to look within. Very simple. We've heard that a lot in our lives. Look within. In this particular path or lineage, that looking within is done pretty intentionally and with strong form. Strong in the sense that it's very precise and direct. And if you follow it, understand it, conform to it, which means observing the form, conform to this, then you are in body-mind complex is very, very complicated. It looks like it is separate. It looks like you can think one thing and do something else. Probably not. I'm just thinking about his hairdo. Is that ignorance? If I think about something else while I'm saying something else? Form of it. But if you see it and you understand it and you watch yourself do it and you witness that, you see that come and go, do not meddle with that. Don't try to fix yourself. There are different teachings, they function different ways. If you're in this room, you're probably meant to hear it spoken in this way. I'm not saying that if you go next door or if you go to here or continually try to tweak, work with things, and not that you shouldn't, you could do some of that. You could do quite a bit of that. It's just that if you don't clarify inward, then whatever's happening out here is based on muddled thinking, shall we say? Use the old-fashioned term. And there are no guarantees that your thinking will be all that clear if you do practice. No guarantee. You hear guarantees, that's suspicious. There's no way any person, any teacher, the Buddha himself, could sit across from you and say, if you do this and this and this, I guarantee this will happen. Because there is no way that anyone, including the Buddha, is going to be able to see deep into the causes and conditions that began to arise before this lifetime, that happen in such a way that presents us with this relative situation we call my life. So you cannot figure it out, but you can begin to clarify. And what I say is sit down, hold still, and just observe over long periods of time what continues to go this way and that way and up and down and back and forth and in and out. I like it, I don't like it, it's good, it's bad, it shouldn't be, it should be. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I should have done this, I shouldn't have done that, I better do it, better. What is that word, yada, yada, yada? Yeah, that one. Several Sanskrit words together. Yada, yada, yada. You don't have to laugh at that. And so clarifying inward for each person for one person it might feel difficult or cloudy or boring, or it doesn't matter how it feels, my friends. It does not matter. You don't have to evaluate when you're beginning to sharpen a knife. You don't immediately stop sharpening it and see if it's getting sharper. You don't evaluate. Just practice. Just practice. I think I'm going to use a straight razor today to do the tonsure. So I think I have my strop here somewhere. And now I actually get them pre-sharpened, probably somewhere in Germany. So the way this appears to each one of us, and I'm just kind of generalizing a little bit, but if you sit down and hold still and don't do anything but intend to just see what's moving in any of the sense fields, within probably not too long of a period of time, you will begin to see the way your personal confusion, you could call it neurosis if you wanted to, or your particular way of self-centering, of emphasizing the central authority. And I probably shouldn't point here, I should point here or here. That seventh consciousness, where the five skandhas, form, feeling, perception, concept, consciousness, all are holding on to each other's hands really tight. I am somebody. I am winning. I am losing. I'm kind of in the middle. And all the other variations. Always coming to a conclusion about something. That's all ego is a big fat conclusion that is untrue. It's not that there isn't something happening. Well, the idea of clarifying inward is for each person may be different, so it's difficult to, if I were to relate to, relating to everyone it's difficult, but if I were to relate to people individually, together, mutually, we could look at that, we could discuss that a little bit and see if there isn't some way you personally can move your awareness deeper into what is happening for you personally. And it could be anything. It could be no two people are anywhere near. It's like fingerprints. They're just nothing alike. Well, there's something alike, but they're nothing alike. Is that a contradiction? I didn't see any brows knit. Any brows knitting? So the idea is if you hold still, if you're moving at all, even the slightest bit, doesn't seem to work. Walking in the woods, meditating in the woods is great. It feels good, I know. It feels peaceful, it feels calm. Go do it. Do a lot of it. But try to find some time in between the walks in the woods where you actually are sharpening that awareness. You can't sharpen the awareness on marshmallows. It doesn't work. Flower petals. I like flowers. But if you hold still, any one of you, hold still and just observe, just give your attention to it. It takes a while, and the feedback we get right away seems to be we're not getting anywhere, or this doesn't make any sense, or it doesn't line up with my idea about what meditation should feel like or be like. This is why it's so important to have a structure, a form, and I know it's very important to have a teacher. If you don't have one, you're not going to attain enlightenment. You're already enlightened. So really, all you really have to do is stop trying to clarify everything else. Look at this. Sit down, hold still, and look. If you do this you might have to do it for a few hours, a few days, a few years. It takes a while to do this. And it's not for everyone. That's why there's no particular sales pitch going on. But if I have your attention, you come in this room, I have your attention, and I assume I have your permission for a little while. I would say, nothing to join. There's nothing to disconnect from. There's just wherever you go, there's just your mind. You're always seeing your projections. You can't see anything but this. You can't see anything but this room. Sometimes it's said this way, you can't leave this room. But if you do see deeply, you begin to see how very complicated and confusing and how elaborate everything is. Don't add to the elaboration with your own elaborations about the elaborations. Elaboration, that's elaborate, and you elaborate about that, and elaborate, and keep building and building. This is the method of the ego. The method of the ego is to keep blowing smoke about anything. I like it. It's good. It shouldn't be that way. They shouldn't be. Should they be saying that? Even swapping opinions. If you sit in Starbucks or Melvin's, which is the one's about ready to take over Starbucks, you heard of Melvin's? No? He's just getting started. He's on the East Coast. The idea is to clarify. When we say clarify, you're not really doing anything, you're just looking at the cloudiness, because there really isn't anything to clarify. But we need words, we have the words, we need to go in and look at how blurry this is, and then instead of trying to turn away from it, ignorance, into something else, like how do I deal, what do I do? I can tell you now, once you sit down, just look at that, look at what that's like. Ego does not want to do this. Ego starts to feel threatened the more you sit still and do nothing, insofar as you can. Don't add. Don't explain what this is. Don't get rid of what this is. Don't ignore what this is. See what this is. If you see what this is, then you'll see what this is. And if you see what this is, here it comes. You think you know what I'm going to say. Then you'll see what this is. There isn't anything but this. And it's not separate. And it's astonishing. At the same time, it's flat out ordinary. That's why that's why it does not fulfill the bill that ego has set out for it, what awakening or enlightenment or sanity or clarity or even happiness is. Relative happiness, not so good. A lot of ways to get that. We all know that. There's ways to be relatively happy. For us is. You actually leave Buddhism. You can't stay with Buddhism and know what this is. Clarifying inward, we see the depth in our own particular karma, our own particular causes, conditions, a tendency to get upset, tendency to be jealous, tendency to shut down, a tendency just to wake up mad, irritated, or depressed, or however it may be. Or maybe you might wake up really happy and slowly get bummed the rest of the day. Have you noticed when you sit still and you look within, you see some kind of tumbling around, some kind of going this way and that, some kind of moving up, moving down, some kind of calculating. Not about stopping that. There are practices, Shine and Laktung is the Tibetan word for shamatha vipassana, which is a Sanskrit word for mindfulness awareness. Just sit down, be mindful, and then train yourself to be mindful. In other words, one-pointed. And then the awareness, the panoramic awareness of Mahavipassana will begin to expand, as they say in those teachings. I'm not here to mock them at all. I'm just saying that is a way of practicing. It's very slow and a little bit different than what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is, see it right now. There isn't anything but the Buddha. This is not about the religion called Buddhism. The Buddha is the awakened one. There isn't anything but the awakened one. And even saying one is extra. There's nothing but awake. There's awake. You're looking at it, my friends, my enemies. You're looking at it all the time. You're looking at it now. You're looking at it when you walk out the door. You're looking at it as you reach for the handle of your car. You're looking at it. You're looking at this. This is an astonishing situation. Clarify inward so that you can see that door handle. You can't see that door handle unless you're really clear about this. Because the imaginary, imputed, and concocted personality we call me, that's been going on since beginningless time, it's met its match in this room. And I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about you. You're in this room, you're ready to see this. I'm insignificant. But when you reach for that door handle, you'll know whether you need to come back and spend some more time looking at what? The wall, which is the ultimate door handle. The very relative movements that are, quite often when we're doing that, we're lost in thought about where we're going, where we should be going, where we're going to get gas at, what our mother just said to us, what our father, daughter, friends, what the old man in the moon said. Just that. It's in the Tibetan tradition, it's called one-act samadhi. Just this is it. Always. And this is a direct pointing at the mind. You're looking at it. It's actually self-secret. The way it's self-secret is it's an open secret. No one's hiding it. Clarify inward. The outward world of totally confusing, complicated, and your ego, the desire of the ego will be somewhat pacified, satiated, or whatever by acting outward. Well, at least I'm doing this. And then we get together and compliment each other on, yes, I'm doing this, and I'm voting for this person or voting for that person. I'm not saying you shouldn't vote. You should, if you want to. But it's very important to examine, clarify inward, and clarify. I'm not saying about getting rid of anything. I'm saying clarify the way in which you take your unexamined, which may be beginning to be examined, aggression out into the world. This is why when egos vote or control things, you have a mess that clears up, and then a mess that clears up, then another mess, and then it clears up. Century after century after century, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. It gets better and it gets worse, gets better and it gets, and people get addicted to that pattern. And people actually think that they can affect some kind of material or mundane happiness. That kind of happiness is, it's okay if you're at the beach, but if you're in the hospital with Alzheimer's, or if you're in the and you don't even know what's going on, or with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, imagine dying in that way. Well, a good friend of mine has that and is having great difficulties. Had it for some time now, a year or so. She came here to meditate every now and then. I met her in the 1980s. I'll try to go see her this afternoon if possible. What do you say? What do you say? It's going to get better? It's okay? Validate it somehow? How do you comfort someone who's wide awake, understands everything, but their body, the thing they've been counting on, is slowly crackling and going back down to where they can't even talk? To the Theravadins. You can go back into Christianity, which some people do. We had someone recently who was doing a whole, documentary on Zen Buddhism. He's now gone back to Christianity. Zen, I think, in my comment, I don't mean to mock him because he's trying to be happy. I think Zen was just a little bit too empty. There wasn't enough stuff. There wasn't enough stuff in there. Not mocking him. Again, he wants to be happy. I'm just making a fool of myself as usual. Already a fool. Yes, sir.
Early in the talk, you brought up forms, and I was just wondering how we have strong forms without being rigid.
Mm-hmm. I think it takes a while to understand what the form is. The form is not something you obey. There's nothing to obey. If you're obeying something, and I'm not saying there aren't traditions and lineages and that are very kind of come out of macho kind of cultures where they think that, you need to hit people with a stick, or, if you cough or something, some of you, and set up by what you've been told or what your teacher has told you or other, whatever it may be, and you endeavor to match that or relate to that form. And then, like my situation, it's very hard for me to do this. I have a really bad wrist, so I can't actually, if I put my palms together, I can't hold my arms out very far. So your body is always getting in the way of the forms that you want to do. I think I managed to do one prostration this morning, maybe. So difficult. And so when you're practicing forms, it seems necessary to do it a lot, to do come and bow, sit down, take this position, like so, with a cosmic mudra, as we're doing, hold very still, keep your back straight if you can. Some people, can't. Some people can sit very straight. They just naturally have a straight posture. That doesn't mean everybody's going to be able to do that. And this is a misunderstanding that this goes all the way through Zen, probably back thousands of years. Hundreds of years, where everybody should sit the same way. Well, if you sit like this and your back naturally curves a little bit, there are people who will come along who've been doing this for 30 years, and they'll tell you to straighten up or correct you. Not a good idea. The first instruction is hold very straight, and this is something, if you come here very much, I say it over and over and over again. So the instruction is continually coming out. If you need to hear that and you need to straighten up, you probably will. And if you hear that and you're thinking about something else, then that will show up too. More questions about the form are very good if you have them.
What gives the strong form its strength?
Intention. The intention, see the form, and just the intention to hold the form, the intention.
How do we work with our interpretation of the form? Yeah. Is there a way to see the form?
That. Like I got up and went over and scolded. What do you think you're doing? It's the very best thing I can do to support any person. That's my practice. I'm not concerned about whether I'm clear or not clear. Not important anymore. And so, if I see someone doing something that is, a ways away from the form, I may watch it for quite a while, or I may say something right away. I might say, when you're something simple like when you leave the Zendo, you should bow to the Buddha. Acknowledge that you're leaving. And it's not about the Buddha, it's not about Buddhism, it's about you doing a form where you're giving up just a little microscopic particle of yourself. If you receive Jukai, you're giving up 4 or 5 microscopic particles of yourself, so you can really focus on this as a form. So the rest of your life, you're going to have some kind of an emphasis on something that transcends this world. Yes?
I was just wondering, for people who aren't able to come and be in these forms every day, is there a way to bring the forms into the daily life of a householder?
So we're using technology. We're endeavoring to do that with Zoom. I don't know if that's what you're thinking about. But we're every morning at 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock. You can come, and it's kind of boring. It's not about entertainment. You can come and look at the screen and listen to the whatever chants we're doing. The 4 chants we do every morning, 7:10, I think it is, and you can. It's live, so you can be encouraged by that. It'll give you some kind of a feeling of Sangha. At the same time, you might have to turn away from the screen and just be very difficult because you find people that you're kind of at odds with that see practice differently than you do. And then you see it a certain way, they see it a little bit different way, with all of their causes and conditions. And that's why Sangha is so important. It's one of the 3 jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. The Buddha is the example of someone who is sane, no longer at war. There wasn't any warfare there, not demanding anything. Doesn't need anything else. And then there's the Dharma, or the truth that he taught, which is everything is dependently risen. Everything is in a state of discontent. And working with someone or meet someone, there are ways that you can quit that job, you can get a divorce. You can move out of that neighborhood and stop talking to that person. But with Sangha, you have a broader picture, and so you can't really get away from. I mean, of course you can move. But you have a question? Yes, go ahead, Jim.
When we give ourselves to the chanting form, and it's in a language we don't understand. What are we giving ourselves to there?
It's just your attention. It doesn't matter if you understand it. That's a very low. When I say low level, I don't mean to judge. I'm just saying it's a very elementary understanding of it. You don't really need. This is not a mundane path. This is not a university. This is a temple. This is a spiritual path which transcends this world. It transcends this body-mind complex that you are. Most of the world is attached to the body-mind complex, and they think that's all there is, or that's all they are, unless they have a spiritual path that says there's some kind of savior waiting for them, or some kind of payoff if they live in a certain way. In Buddhism, there's no promises. And so, go ahead.
What does it mean? What does it mean for us to give it our attention?
Practice it. Come in. We don't even understand why we're sitting. We don't even understand. If you do the Heart Sutra in English, form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. The same is true of feeling, perception, concept, a memory, and consciousness. What does that mean? I don't know what it means. We can figure that out. I mean, I can talk about it a little bit, but to fundamentally understand that takes a lifetime. And if it's presented in Japanese, if it's presented in Chinese, if it's presented in Sanskrit, then we can get a translation of it. But you'll notice if you have a translation of something, a lot of, the way you see clarity, the way you have clarity is, and follow me here if you can, you're clear about the confusion. This is clarity. Clarity isn't clarity about clarities. Yeah, I can give you that. Want that? Go look at an ice cube. Clear about how, wait a minute, this ice cube's cloudy. Now I'm going to sort through and see if I can find a clear one. So what the Buddha did not see rose gardens, hobby horses, and milkshakes. The Buddha awoke to suffering. He awoke to confusion. As Dogen said in the 13th century, clarity about confusion. And I'm paraphrasing him. The clarity about confusion is what the Buddha saw. Confusion about clarity is what human beings see, or living beings. So human beings are confused about awakening. Buddhas are confused about confusion? No, that's not it.